So, there's a bit of a theme going on, isn't there? What's the theme? Anybody know what the theme is? Trinity? Yeah. Boats, yes, boats. There's a bit of a theme, and it's boats. Who likes going on a holiday? Yes. Who likes taking pictures? Yes. Who likes seeing other people's holiday photos? No. Tough. You're going to see my holiday photos. I think this has been recorded, so I have to be careful what I say. There's a famous incident in our family where we went to an auntie's for what we thought was for dinner, and we ended up with 3 hours of their holiday photographs. So we were all traumatized by that. But I'm going to show you some holiday photos. We went on a boat trip in Canada, and there we go. There's Canada, and although this looks, it's just how massive Canada is. This was actually quite far north in Canada, in a wilderness called Algonquin Park. And it's just an absolutely wonderful place. And we went canoeing from here all the way to this little island here, which we stayed at for 2 nights. And where the red bits are is where where the blue bits are is where you canoe. Where the red bits are is where you carry your canoe. So here's some pictures of Caroline and I. We'd never been canoeing before, and we were very nervous about canoeing. We didn't think we'd be very good at it, and I was in the front of the canoe, and Caroline was slightly behind me. We got in this canoe, and for the first few minutes, we were wobbling around all over the place. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a long 2 days, because we were canoeing for 2 days to get to this place here. So here's Caroline, canoeing. Fantastic. Now, we were really good at canoeing, because I was taking the picture, Caroline wasn't even paddling, yet we were moving. It's fantastic. We were canoeing. So that's the canoeing bit. Sometimes it was too shallow to canoe, so we had to. There's Caroline doing all the work, and it's me taking the photographs again. Yeah. And then, here we go. This is when we have to carry the canoe. Here's Caroline doing all the work again. It's a bit overloaded there, doesn't she? She got voted the most damaged knees award, I think, something like that. She got. We haven't got that picture. Don't worry. Okay. So we had to carry the canoes a lot. And at the end when we got to the island, we were looking pretty pleased with ourselves. And you know why we were pretty pleased with ourselves? I was growing a sort of sailor's beard, by the way. We were looking very pleased with ourselves because we were actually one of the fastest canoes. It was amazing. We were quite old, really, but we were one of the fastest canoes. There were 10 canoes, and we were second or third. And, I got quite broad shoulders. I was feeling quite proud of myself. Never done it before. I was just great. Just great at canoeing. Oh, it's just wonderful. So, we were very happy with ourselves. So we got to where we stayed, and we stayed for a couple of days. And then then one day, really, reality, the truth hit me. Because these pictures don't tell the whole story. Because that picture there is really that picture there. This guy here, look at him. He's putting a lot of effort in there, isn't he? Tim is a mountain of a man. He's 20 odd. Did I mention him that he was in my boat? Oh, I didn't mention him in my boat. Okay, there's Caroline. There's Tim again. Pushing the boat. Okay. There's Tim carrying our boat. Because I couldn't carry the boat. We had to carry the boat. There he is. He's getting quite tired by now. And then here we are at the end. That's wrong too, because there's Tim in the picture. What a great body he's got, eh? Muscles and... Now, I still thought I was quite a good canoeist, actually, and I didn't really know just how good Tim was. But one afternoon, Caroline and I, on quite a windy day, decided to take the canoe out on our own. Bad move. Bad move. 18-foot canoe, side wind, inexperienced, shouldn't have done it. So we got in this canoe and we were 5 feet from the shore, and I realised we were in danger. We were trying to get over there. The wind was blowing us there. So guess which way we went? There. Yes. My hat blew off. My hat that's been all around the world. Even Richard Bonsel's worn my hat. It blew off and disappeared in a lake. We tried to get back to land. And we got near the land, not where we wanted to go, but we got near the land, and then Caroline decided to jump out. And we capsized. You can imagine what was said between us. Not good. So all this got me thinking. Got me thinking about boats and about life. And how I go through most of my life, and when it goes well, I think I'm all doing it myself. I think I'm doing it in my own power. And I compared Tim to God, really. Tim, that's why we're recording it, because Tim's in Canada and he wants to hear himself being compared to God in this talk. So that's why I'm recording it. But Tim, the reason we could paddle that canoe so well was not because of me, not because of Caroline. It was because of Tim. Tim was in that back, pulling and steering and making sure we were on the right course, whatever the weather. And I thought that's really a bit like God, really. I spend a lot of my life, and life can be very good. And in that time, I kind of think, well, it's all down to me. I've got a little bit of money today, and that's because I've worked hard. I'm living in a nice house. That's because I've worked hard. I can read. That's because I worked hard at school. All those sort of things. And I don't recognise God's role in this. And this is a story from the Old Testament where other people didn't recognise God's role either. And God is warning them, and he's saying, it's a long passage, but remember when the Israelites got taken out of Egypt and they went to the promised land, but they spent a long time in the desert. And God's reminding them that a lot of their wealth and everything that he gives them is theirs. It's not theirs, it's his. And he's given them. So you may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. Now, when we were in that boat and we were being blown that way and we wanted to go that way, and we actually couldn't get back to where we wanted to go, but fortunately we could go around the island, and we got blown around the island, we managed to make land, and then we had to walk back to our camp and abandon the canoe. And we didn't tell anybody for about 3 or 4 days what had happened, while we ignored each other. Yes. Do you think we were smiling in that storm? Because it was very stormy. I don't think we were we? And that song we sang was great fun, but it wasn't a really good song, really, because we don't smile when we're in the storms. And Caroline very helpfully explained that when we're talking about storms, we're talking about our life. And even Christians don't really smile through the storms. It's a strange thing if we were smiling when we're unhappy or when we've lost somebody. And we all can think of times in our lives when things have been sad. We can think of things that have happened to other people who are friends of ours that are sad. And we've not just been able to smile about it. And Christian life doesn't make us just smile about things. It really doesn't. But what it does do is it allows us to rest on somebody else, which is God. And King David is a great example of this, because in his life, why was he called a man after God's own heart? Because in everything he did, in the good times, when his canoe was being blown down in the right direction, the sea was calm, the sun was shining, in those good times, he thanked God. But in the bad times, so a good time would be when he was king. He thanked God every day. But the bad times was when he was in the cave. Do you remember that story, some of you, that have been taught by Chris and Mandy, I'm sure? He was in the cave and being chased by King Saul. Even in those times, he thanked God. So if we don't smile in the storm as Christians, what do we do? And the song we're going to sing is about an anchor. And this is a very special anchor. Can anybody see this anchor? What's special about this anchor? Trinity? It's in the shape of a cross, yes. Yeah, it's in the shape of a cross. Now, if we'd had an anchor on our canoe, we could have thrown it over the side and we could have just stopped where we were going. We could have stopped drifting off. And that's why we're going to sing this song, because that's a bit more like what we should be doing as Christians. We should be like King David. In the good times, we should be thanking God and really developing our relationship with him through prayer and through reading the Bible, through spending time with friends and sharing our lives with each other. And in the bad times, we should be doing exactly the same. So in the good times, we shouldn't be proud of ourselves and congratulating ourselves on what we've achieved. We should be thanking God. In the bad times, we should be doing the same thing. We should be thanking God for everything he's done for us in the past and just praying to him. And you know, the stories we've seen in the Bible, the two stories about the boat, they give us a little insight as well. Yes, the main purpose of the story is to show us Jesus' power over nature. Yes, that's the main part of the story. It also shows us that even the disciples were afraid when he was in the boat. And you notice he was asleep in the boat on the first story. And that's a bit like how Jesus can be in our lives. He can be asleep. Not through his choice, but we can let our relationship with him go to sleep. He can be slumbering in the back. And this is why we need to be consistent about our relationship with God, and so that we don't let that relationship fall to sleep, just like in the boat Jesus was asleep. But it's alive and it's awake, and it's real. On the back of your sheets is a poem that a lot of people know. It was brought up in Christianity Explored this Thursday that somebody said it found really helpful. It's about when we are in trouble, and we are in troubled times, and we think God is not with us. If you've got time to read it, it's great. I'll just briefly sort of say what it's about. It's called Footsteps in the Sand, and it's about this idea that when we're in trouble, we feel abandoned by God, and we often do feel like that. But actually, is that really the case? Or have we let God metaphorically go to sleep? And the poem goes on to say, why, when I'm in trouble, is there only one set of footsteps in the sand? Why is God's footsteps not there with me in the sand? And God comes back and says, it's because I'm carrying you. They're my footsteps, not your footsteps in the sand. And my grandma was a lovely lady, and she said every day of her life, well, every day I spent with her of her life, she always said, I look back and see how the Lord has blessed me. And she would say that on the good days, and she would say that on the bad days. And I think that's a really good thing. When we look back at things, when we look back at the difficult times, we might not see that God is with us on the difficult days, but when we look back on those difficult days, we do often sense that God is with us. That's my experience in the last couple of years in the difficult times. God has been with me on those difficult days. But sometimes you only realize it when the storm has died down and it's passed. You look back and think, yeah, God was with me on that day. It's actually sometimes harder to realize that God is with us on the good days when we're achieving more. I think that's a lot of people's experience. But actually in the good times, it's time to forget God. Well, let's try and be a little bit more like King David, and every day, or my grandma, and every day thank God for being with us, for guiding us, and for being our anchor. And never believe a photograph ever again. Photoshop is an evil thing. Amen.